Howdy, everybody, and welcome to Dunkirk, or at least the World of Warships interpretation of it. This is a new promotional thing coming with patch 0.6.8 that just came in Thursday, and it includes a brand new mission, some new ships, and a brand new port, which I'm sure would be rather lovely if it wasn't currently being bombed by Nazis. So, what's going on here with Dunkirk? Well, first of all, I noticed this when I was in the port, and I kind of got to show it. How did this get in here? I mean, its butt is hanging over the launch slipways for that naval yard, and the bow is practically coming ashore on the opposite side. There is no possible way that they got this Iowa in here. Oh yeah, that's ridiculous. But holy cow, is this port beautiful. Alright, let's get serious. Let's talk about Operation Dynamo, or the operation of the week that came with this update. So if you select Operation Dynamo, the first thing you're going to notice is down here on your ships, you are limited to 2 ships. The Anthony, which is a British destroyer, and the Cyclone, a French one. And no, you're not imagining things. They just gave you these ships because you need them for the mission. Now, one of the other fun things here is you get a 19-point captain to go with your ships, which is pretty exciting. But I will warn you, when you first grab these guys, do not allocate their points right off the bat, because normally, you'd see this over here. It's pretty standard for a destroyer, and so you'd probably try to kit this guy out like a normal destroyer captain. Very bad idea. What it comes down to is you want to do everything on this that you can to buff your anti-aircraft firepower. Yeah, I know that's a tier 5 destroyer and you're trying to buff its anti-aircraft firepower, but that's what you got to do. Now, Wargaming allocates the first 10 points of your captain without, your say-so. So you can't really do anything about that. You get priority target, last stand, and basic firing training and advanced firing training. You just naturally get, and you have the other points you can assign for yourself. Now, me personally, I threw in to get expert marksman, superintendent, because the extra charge of defensive fire is actually very important, as well as fire prevention, just in case you get dive bombed. You do get dive bombed, but there's really not a whole lot else that's worth taking. Manual control for anti-aircraft fire is wasted, because neither of these ships have any anti-aircraft guns over 85 millimeters. They're all limited to small caliber stuff, I think 40 millimeters and below. So that's no good. On the Anthony, at least, you don't have a smoke generator, so that's worthless. Your torpedoes, no reason to bother with them. So really, there's you need to focus on survivability and getting as much anti-aircraft firepower in the air as possible, because you do get defensive fire. Alright, so I have my Anthony, and I actually went ahead and threw on the November Echo. That can't be right. Throw on the anti-aircraft flag, and then just for fun, I threw on the consumables reload flag and the speed flag. Although, honestly, you don't really need the speed flag, because you really have no reason to ever go much above 3/4 head. Also, just because I hate money, I threw on some additional upgrades, again focusing mostly on the anti-aircraft guns. And for consumables, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, yes, I am going to put premium defensive anti-aircraft fire on, just because it reloads quicker, and I'll actually wind up with another charge on top of it. So I'll have 5 charges. Yeah, anti-aircraft fire is just that important in this scenario. So you have your destroyer, you have your 19-point captain kitted out, you have thrown on a couple of flags, changed out some consumables and your modules, and now you are ready to rock and roll. So let's go in and take a look at what happens in Operation Dynamo, the rescue at Dunkirk. Now, here's our team, and right off the bat, I would like to say this is probably the optimal composition for a team because I only went over the Anthony in the port view, but the Anthony should be the default ship you take on this because you need its anti-aircraft firepower. The Cyclone is primarily for smoke, and you really only need one, or alternately, none. So here we are off the French coast of Dunkirk, and there is a lot going on here, so let's get right into it. Up ahead, you have the 20,000 marker, and what that is a representation of the troops we're trying to pluck off the beach. And you have to get into the beach, and you have to get into the circle and come to a halt, at which point you can start taking on soldiers. Yeah, they don't make you run up on the beach, and they don't have any of the little launches running back and forth between the beach. You just got to stop inside the circle, and you'll start picking up soldiers. And we're also in the company of a large group of small vessels. Just examples of the fleet that we're coming to try to come to the rescue of the guys at Dunkirk. Now, if you look on the mini-map, you have two gigantic areas that are outlined in red, and these are minefields. And let me give you a hint, do not go into them. They are incredibly dense, and if you stray into those minefields, you're gonna die. I wish there was some better news, but that's what's gonna happen. Now, right off the bat, we have some fighters coming in here to serve as spotters for shore batteries. Now, I'm not using defensive fire because I don't want to waste it just yet, but we got to shoot these guys down so that the shore batteries stop getting a bead on us. And as you can see, these fighters are going down pretty quick. They must have next to no HP for these little destroyers to be able to take them out this fast. But as you can see, you can make a dent in them. Deserters. Deserters will not be tolerated. Alright, so coming to a halt, or at least down slow. Once you get to think it's about below 6 knots, you can start picking up guys. So, and even you, as one of the destroyers, can carry soldiers. 500 guys in this case. Yeah, this little boat, in every single mission, this guy will punk out and decide to run for it. And, yeah, I've watched him run off with his tail between his legs many, many times. So once we're done playing around with him, we're going to hit the gas because we need to start being able to maneuver because here come the aircraft, and this is just the beginning. Trust me on this. So also, up at the top, you can see our primary task, which is just get the soldiers on board and get out of Dunkirk. Secondary tasks, destroying a large number of fighter squadrons, shoot down enemy bombers and torpedo bombers, as you can see, 80, and save 7,000 soldiers. And those are the secondary tasks we have right now. Yeah, that's a lot of airplanes to shoot down, and believe me, you're not going to have a whole lot of trouble getting it done. Oh, our little deserter just straight into the minefield, as you can see down there, and he immediately blew up. And yes, I have strayed into the minefield before, and you just die. Yeah, if you stray into that minefield, you're going to die, so be very, very careful. You don't have to be doing a lot of high-speed maneuvers in this mission, so don't worry about it. Here we go. Oh, and here we have the first of the Schnell boats. These are essentially German PT boats. Now, the big thing that I would tell you if you're going to be getting into this mission for the first time is these boats are tiny and they are moving much, much faster than you think they are. So you have to give them a lot more lead than you normally would if you're going to get hits. But the good news is they die in 2 hits. If you can get 2 shots in on them, they are dead. Now, you might be wondering, I'm making a big deal about anti-aircraft fire, but I have yet to actually pop my defensive AA. And that's because these are just the precursors. These are just the first few little airwaves coming in that are effectively next to nothing. Your normal anti-aircraft fire can take care of it. Oh, one other thing. Make sure that you are control clicking on enemy squadrons because it's an extra 30% DPS against those squadrons, and that can make a pretty big difference. And given how many fighters you're going to wind up, or how many aircraft you're going to wind up having to deal with, you definitely want to be making full use of maximizing your anti-aircraft abilities. Yep. good advice. If you can take down the spotters, the shore batteries are not nearly as effective. And the shore batteries can actually be pretty wickedly effective now. In the early going, these fighter squadrons are the spotters for the shore batteries. Now, while I've been yammering on, we've actually gotten 2 new secondary objectives. The first is to get get at least 7 of your 10 civil, I guess that's supposed to be civilian, ships to the evacuation zone. And as you can imagine, way up there in the northwest corner, that little anchor is the point you have to get to, which means you're going to have to run through this channel in the minefield. And no, I have no idea why he shot me. Alright, so right now we're just going to start cruising. Like I said, you don't have to run off super fast, because these little boats behind you are pretty stinking slow. The big thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you're consistently putting yourself between the enemy aircraft and your rescue fleet. If you can do that, you can make full use of your anti-aircraft firepower to thin the herd out as they're coming in. And here we go. Yeah, now you've got, what is that, 7 squadrons? Yeah. So this is where you actually start to see the large number of airplanes coming in. This is where you're going to want to make use of your defensive firepower. And the game actually prompts you on how to do the control click to make sure you get enough guys shot down. And now we are in the thick of it. You know, for ships that have essentially a couple double machine gun mounts and 2 little World War I vintage 40mm cannons, they managed to put out an impressive fireworks display when those anti-aircraft guns get going. Now, here's where we're going to get into trouble, because you're starting to turn towards this channel in the minefields. So, here come even more Schnell boats. And that's the other secondary objective we picked up, is to shoot 25 of them. And again, if you're keeping your guns firing, you're not going to have any trouble getting that many of them shot. Your torpedoes are really kind of useless, but it never hurts to put a few of them in the water just to make these Schnell boats, give them something else to worry about. So, now normally these guys come in pretty hot against our civilian ships, but you can see our one destroyer who's swinging wide around the eastern minefield. He's actually, and I don't want to encourage this as a tactic, because I've only had this one time where somebody ran off and did this, but he wound up becoming the priority target of the AI. So maybe, I don't know. But he attracted quite a few aircraft squadrons as well as the Schnell boats, and they stayed away from the rest of the fleet, which really is what you want. Every time any of these boats takes a hit, you lose men, because essentially during the rescue at Dunkirk, these ships were packed to the gunnels with men. They were just crammed onto every available surface on the ships. So, you know, you take a 88mm shell on the deck, it's going to explode amidst a bunch of troops. And yeah, I just lost 20 guys, which, you know, it's a little abstract, but at the same time, if you think about it, it's kind of horrific. So, right now, we're starting to get out of range of the shore batteries, so their fire isn't nearly as effective, but the real swarming of the Luftwaffe, as well as these Schnell boats, are not going to give you any time to rest. Unless one of your people goes off completely on his own. These 2 dive bomber squadrons and the torpedo squadron are locked onto that one guy and completely ignoring the rest of the fleet. Which, yeah, like I said, I don't want to endorse that as a tactic to use, but at least in this case, it seemed to mess with the AI a lot. So right now, we're just moving into the slot, which is clearly going to be dangerous because you run out of room to maneuver. In general, the Luftwaffe fighters are going to be going after the civilian ships, so it's not like you're going to have a lot of stuff to dodge, but if you're not successful in taking these squadrons out, you're very quickly going to be sailing through torpedo soup with nowhere to maneuver. So here they are making the absolute nastiest kind of attack they possibly could where they run up alongside us and then come in 90 degrees while we're in the middle of the channel with nowhere to maneuver. But all of our anti-aircraft guns are ripping and roaring and just tearing into these guys. So that's what you want to do. You want to keep yourself between the civilian ships and the airplanes. Use your defensive fire when you get these major waves, and just try to thin them out as much as possible. Every one of these guys that goes down is one less torpedo in the water. You can see they're still out there trying to play with our errant destroyers, but here come some Schnell boats from behind. Now, thankfully they're coming from behind, which means the closure rate's going to be pretty low. And let's not talk about my accuracy. Now, this is one of the reasons that I would definitely say you want to get expert marksman for the additional turret rotation speed, because you are going to have to shift back and forth to take these boats out, going from side to side sometimes. Alright, thinning out those airplanes. Again, you got to knock down 80 for your secondary objective. So even though they're returning to base, you still want to try to shoot as many of them down as you possibly can. Now, I was a little early on this call. I was calling for anti-aircraft support because we're going to have some fighters coming in. And I wanted to get some AA support for them, but I was early there. Now, something that you might have noticed, there was a white circle on the water. And what that is one of our ships went down, and that is essentially the soldiers and crew that survived. And you have the chance to go pick them up, and you can rescue some additional people. My transport capacity jumped up from 500 to 750. However, what I'll tell you is you're going to get yourself killed. Just like in, well, I forget the name of the operation, but the one with the overeager AI ship that gets himself killed right off the bat. Yeah, if you go in there and try to be the hero and rescue him, you're just going to get yourself killed. These Schnell boats will torpedo you. You have to come to pretty much a halt to get the shots off, or you have to come to a halt to pick up the troops, and if you do that, they're just going to run right in and torpedo you. So, oh, this Schnell boat got in close and hit one of our guys. And yep, even at this close range, you still have to give them a good bit of lead because they are just that fast. Alright, now here's where the fighters are coming in, and honestly, I was out of position. You really need to get your destroyers up underneath this developing dogfight to be able to get down the enemy fighter squadrons. And yeah, I was out of position. The anti-aircraft guns only have a range, even with all the mods to do them, of a little over 2 kilometers. So I just was not able to make much of a difference in this fight. But anti-aircraft fire was coming off cooldown, so I lit it up and did my best to knock as many of these guys down as I possibly could. And something to note, the objective is for full squadrons of fighters. So if you knock down most of a squadron, but one of the fighters limps away, guess what? You didn't get that squadron. So yeah, this right here is where our 5-star just slipped away. Oh well. Can't win them all. But here we are with more dive bombers coming in. And I really like this scenario. Yep, there we go. We've lost another one of our, lost another ship. But we still have 9 civilian ships. So we're still sitting pretty for that. But I absolutely love this scenario, and I really hope that Wargaming does more of these. I think it would be a lot of fun if I like the operations. I like just these random scenarios that they put together that are a lot of fun, but I think that these, like this mission specifically, Dunkirk, you have kind of an opportunity to do a historic scenario with some pretty severe restrictions on what you can take. In this case, you only have the 2 destroyers to take. But I think that this is something you could do a whole series of famous naval battles, put some heavy restrictions on it, and call it a historical series or something along those lines. I don't know. But I would hope that they do even more of it, because this is also a place where you're seeing a lot of mechanics getting thrown in. That we have minefields. We've never had minefields in the game before. We have this picking troops up, and I know we've had similar things happen in a few of the operations before now, but hey, I mean, do more of it. This is a great place to experiment with these kind of new mechanics because it's co-op. You know, it's co-op. Nobody is fighting against anybody else. Neither side is getting the raw end of the deal if you don't get to play with the new mechanics, because you can just let the other side have the raw end. And oh, here come torpedoes. Chop the throttle. Oh, not today, Fritz. These guys are just murderously hard little targets to get a hold of. Thankfully, the AI will drive them straight. I really hope we never see anything like this in the hands of players, because these little boats with somebody who knows what they're doing at the controls, forget it. You'd never get a shot off on them. You'd never hit them. Never in a million years. It's only when they're running in these long straight lines that you really have much of a chance. There we go. Come on. Come on. There we go. Yeah. See if we can't create the German JFK. But where's the torpedo soup that I was talking about. Thankfully, the Anthony is pretty maneuverable, so you shouldn't have any real issues dodging torpedoes, and even these little civilian ships will get in on the torpedo beat action from time to time. It's pretty amusing to watch these little ships start torpedo beating around. But at this point, it's all over but the crying. Everybody just needs to get their butts into the circle, and we will win. Right now, up at the top, you have your little marker for how many guys you've saved. We've still got over 7,000 that we managed to save. And right now I'm just going to be providing kind of a rear guard to keep these guys at bay, hopefully. Honestly, I just wanted to rack up a little more damage, maybe get a few more kills. But right now everybody's starting to get their butts into the... whoa. That could have been ugly. Yeah, now everybody's just trying to get themselves into the cap circle and get this mission complete. And don't count on seeing this very often, but torpedo got one of the Schnell boats. Hey, you never know. Sometimes you get lucky. And there we go. Everything complete. Except for the fighter squadrons. But really, 4 stars for me is the goal with these missions. 4 stars gets you all the rewards, gets you all the major stuff. I think the 5th star is just 1 day of premium, which, you know, if you don't have premium, that's definitely worth something. But you get all the big prizes, including a 10-point French captain and a whole passel of flags. It's actually pretty lucrative, given that you're only really investing maybe 20 minutes in the battle. And, you know, miss out on that 5th goal and getting that free day of premium, but, well, what you gonna do? When you're doing this with a whole bunch of randoms, that's kind of what happens. And one last little note, there is another thing going on with the Dunkirk campaign, and that is a collection. If you go into your collections tab that they added with the Hunt for the Bismarck, you'll actually find another collection, the Dunkirk collection. And when you complete the Dunkirk mission, you will get Dunkirk crates that have a few consumables, but also out will pop these little collectible, whatever you want to call them, icons, whatever. They're actually kind of interesting because it pops in, and this is one of the ships that you can see in game, and it's actually a paddle steamer, and they give you the ship's history, and that's kind of fun. I mean, for a complete and total nerd like me, this is the kind of stuff that I eat up. And it's just kind of a nice little touch. Gives you a little something extra to read. But if you complete the collection, you actually get a flag, which, frankly, looking at the flag, I'm not wild about it. I love my flags on my ships, but that one's not lighting my world on fire. But what you will get, you'll notice down there, is a 10-point British captain, Jack Dunkirk. And this guy is actually rather special, because if you go over to the World of Warships website, you can actually take a look at some of the details. And it's not just that this guy has 10 points to start with, which is nice to begin with, but you actually wind up with him having similar bonus stats to that bit of port cancer, Steven Seagal. He has the Jack of all trades specialization, which means he gets a bonus on his consumable reload. You also get if you use the Jack of all trades skill, he gets an extra 5% on the reload. On expert marksman, he buffs it from, I believe, 2.5 and 0.7 degrees per second up to 3 degrees per second and 1 degree per second for the large guns, which is a nice bonus. And if you pick smokescreen expert, you get an increase in the radius up to 30% instead of 20%. So some nice little extra bonus benefits with a brand new British captain that you're also definitely going to want with the upcoming British battleships coming into the game. I'm going to be saving Jack here for my British battleships. And that is going to be Operation Dynamo. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with it, because I am definitely having a lot of fun with it right now. And this has been Bogatir. I'll catch you next time.